Okay, so that's what we spent the first few minutes of class doing, really, was applying charcoal to the surface. And of course, you can see kind of the marks left behind, the direction that you moved the tool was very evident, so blending it in is helpful. Notice in that second shot there, kind of the middle on the top of the screen, I'm using my skin, my fingers, to blend. And yeah, you can push the charcoal around with your fingers, but remember your skin has some oil in it, and that will start to make the charcoal kind of bond permanently to the paper. So for this kind of method, it's much easier to blend with another tool. Now, if we had infinite amount of money, I would have given everybody a cotton chamois to use to do the blending. You could use an old piece of t-shirt if you want to try this at home. Any piece of cotton fabric that you're not going to wear later could be used. Paper towel will work, which is what we used in class today, but of course the paper towel will also kind of start to shred and tear a little bit. You notice that in the illustrations there, I'm adding a layer, blending, adding a layer, blending, and so that bottom image, the one that has the arrow coming out of it, is about where I wanted to start. I'm in the dark part of the middle range of my value scale. You can see there's a value scale right under there. So we're all pretty much up to speed on this. Here's how the method is going to look, though. Most of us are going to go right back to doing the outline and then trying to draw the object inside of the line. But don't those objects look a little flat to you guys? Compared to what we've been drawing with hatching and cross-hatching and with additive charcoal, those are just outline drawings. Outline tends to make things look very recognizable. That's its strength. You can tell there's a wine bottle, an upside-down cup, and a shoebox, right? Simple. You can tell what they are, but they sure as heck don't look three-dimensional. So if you notice on the top right, I've just taken my charcoal, quickly scrubbed it across there, and that bottom photograph is the same piece of paper. After I took those marks out, I scrubbed some charcoal on it and blended it, and now you can't see what I did earlier. So the most important thing to remember, I think, about this is that even though it feels messy and a little weird, you're going to be able to manipulate it way more effectively than anything we've done so far this semester. Check that out. Of the two drawings, left or right, which one looks like the objects are actually three-dimensional? Don't you think? And gang, I swear to you, I spent the same amount of time on each of those. On the drawing on the right, obviously one thing that's helping me to make those images look three-dimensional is I'm doing the value on them, right? Paying attention to light and shadow. But what else am I paying attention to? Starts with a C, rhymes with dross, drawn tour, right? We're looking at the contours there, aren't we, right? The changes in the surface. But how much faster am I able to do those than when you were having to use the pencil to do cross-hatching? It's magical. It happens really, really fast. What else did I pay attention to that helps make those look 3D? Starts with an N. The negative space, yeah. Remember I said before that it sounds bad, but it isn't? There's nothing negative. There's nothing wrong with the empty space. The empty space is part of the image that you're seeing. So you have to pay attention not only to the object, but to the space it occupies. So if I start working on the value in the background, the drapery, the foreground, the stuff in front of the objects, while I'm making the objects, they're going to look that much more three-dimensional. Another thing to be aware of is that even if you screw up, and I want to say it was that blue vase threw you off last time, right? That it wasn't totally symmetrical. Check out my wine glass on the top left, or wine bottle. Did I screw up the symmetry? Absolutely. That can be fixed really quickly. If you look at the bottom middle image, can you tell what I did to the top drawing to fix it? What did I do? I used my eraser, right, to draw more of that shape on the right-hand side. I'm going to get in there just quickly so you can see. But it's missing some height right here. I just took the eraser and corrected that shape. That was really easy. What if I made it too tall? We've been doing a lot of work on measuring and sighting angles, right? So what if I decided, oh gosh, I made this way too tall. What did I do over there to make this?
Using charcoal.
Yeah, I just took the charcoal across, scrubbed it a little bit, wiped it in, and now it looks like the mistake was never there. So think about how every time you erased with the pencil when we were doing cross-hatching, you could see where you went wrong. With this, you're not going to see that anymore. Check this out. This is why I want you to start dark, but not jet black. The image on the left and the image on the right, the students spent about the same amount of time on each of those. The one on the left, obviously, they started with a very dark middle value, and they started erasing out the lightest values. The one on the right, they started too light, so what did they have to do there right away? Yeah, they had to add in the dark parts, right? Like if you look at the eye sockets, those obviously had to be added back in. So that's really why we want to start with our pages as dark as we got them at the beginning step today. Does that make sense to y'all? Okay, so let me give you a little inspiration then. Let's take a look at drawings by other students. Cape Fear, level 1. Drawing 1. So a still life with some metal objects, some glass things, similar to what y'all have here, with some dramatic lighting, which we'll have once we get started. Here's some of the drawings. You notice that there aren't a ton of black outline edges around things? The value of the object goes up to the edge of the object, and then the value of the background beside it starts up. Can you see the highlights in the glass? They're actually relatively easy to do by using the eraser. The highlights and shadows in the drapery are easier to do this way. That's why I wanted you to practice it at home. The trick with glass, there's a bottle out there, I think, on the side opposite where I am, that's a kind of light color, pinkish, that's similar to the bottle in the middle on this slide. When you look at the drawing on the screen, can you guys actually sort of see through the glass to the value behind the glass? That's the trick of transparent glass. You're not drawing like a white outline around it or a black outline around it. You're literally drawing the values that you see straight through it. So again, another reason why we practice our positive negative is to help you pull off the illusion of glass. One of the reasons we did the contour and the cross-hatching was to make you sensitive to value changes and to think about the surface. Doesn't that coffee pot feel round, dimensional? That's what we're shooting for with this piece. That's one of the all-time best. Almost looks like a black and white painting, doesn't it? This student was really good at doing spatial relationships. He decided he wanted his composition to be more challenging. He did the edge of the table and the rest of the room. You can bring a level of challenge to this that's equal to your skills. But you're going to end up with a drawing that is much more successful than you probably believe you're capable of right at the moment. Is that crazy? I wanted to zoom in on that one so you can see how good the detail of the reflection is. But notice there's a range of styles here. Some of these drawings are a little looser, some are a little more expressive, some are a little tighter and have a little more specific detail. I am not taking your personal style away from you ever, ever, ever. What I'm asking you to do is to draw with a different method, but you're still going to draw your particular style. Beautiful glass in that one for sure. Good shiny metal. All of those things are going to look really good with some highlights and shadows. So really, we're kind of getting to the point of showing all the skills we've been working so hard all semester to build. This is your chance to make something that will, by the time you're done with it, look almost photographically realistic if you put in that level of effort to it. But again, you can see there are differences in compositional choices, differences in personal style. But this is not outside of your skill base. It's just a different method that you haven't used before, so it's going to take a little getting used to. But I want you to keep in mind how good the end result can be. I've said this many times in here for you guys and for my whole career. I am more concerned with helping you learn a process than I am with getting a perfect final product. I want to see the effort that goes into your thinking as you're working on these. The effort and the process are the thing I'm grading the most. But for those of you who wanted a drawing that would start to look more like a piece of art, here's really where we start getting to that point. I put in some Halloween-y things for you guys. There's skulls out there if you want to zoom in on those, but there's plenty of glass, reflective material. I just wanted to give you a sense of what is possible before we get too far along. So how are we going to manage this since we can't really do a line-style gesture drawing with these erasers? We're going to jump right in to finding our compositions using digital tech. I want you to use your phone, or if you don't have yours with you, you can use my point-and-shoot digital camera if you want. I want you to zoom in and find the most interesting composition to you. Email it to me, and I will print out a proportionate rectangle of your shot that you can then literally put a grid on to help you cite where things are going to go in your big piece. So our large piece of drawing paper is 18 by 24. So I'm going to give you a printout probably that's 6 by 8 inches, right? So that's our next big step. We've got the paper prepped. We've looked at some good examples. I'm going to bring the lights on the still life so we get some good drama. You can take your reference point from really wherever you want because you're going to be primarily working from the photograph, right? So you guys feel free to carefully, still being distant from one another, carefully walk around, find a point of view that you're interested in. Don't be afraid to zoom in. My rule usually is make sure you've got about 3 objects. Allow me to see some foreground and background. Oops, not upside down. Just trying to zoom. How do I zoom? Ah, apparently you push zoom. There you go. So we've done this multiple times, right? Trying to find a good composition. You can shoot either side. You can take a couple pictures and then flip through them and decide which one you want. But as soon as you've got a composition you're happy with, email it to me, and I will print it out for you at a proportionate size so you can start working right from that with the eraser right away. Everybody on board? Cool, cool, cool.